Hello together. Today the lesson will be a little bit different because we have a very important and difficult topic. It is the debugging on the Commodore 65. Why is it that important? It's because it's not like for the Commodore 64 where we have several emulators that support all the things that you need for debugging, like stepping through the code step by step and setting tracing points and so on. So it's a little bit different than editing, where you also can have your editor outside of the system and so on. The debugging, until we have more comfortable tools, will be up to debugging on the real system. So first let's have a look at one program we want to debug. There are the variables set, we initialize an array, and then we have a for loop where we do this division. So you see already, we will come to this division by zero error. And now we try to debug this. So if we start it, we get this error. And now the most important thing and the interesting thing is that even several Commodore 64 users are not really aware of this. So if a basic program stops, the variables are all in the situation as they were when the program stopped. And they are still like this in the memory. And as long as you don't change anything in the code, if you change something in the code, the information is gone. But as long as you don't change anything in the code, the variables maintain like this. So if you go here, for example, and say print x, you see that x had the value 6 when the error occurred. Yeah. Also, the error message, the number of the error message is stored in the memory. So if you go with print, I think it's ER. Yeah, you get an error number. There are tables in the internet where you can look up what the error was. So for example, if you have been in graphics mode, we will see later something about debugging graphics mode, and you were not able to see the command, you can bring it back here. And also there is the command help that shows you the line where the error occurred. So at this, then you know, okay, you had this division by zero error. It was in that line, and the value of x, for example, was 6, and the value of b was really that 0. Now, another comfortable thing that you have in editors is the breakpoint. You also can have something like that on the Commodore 65. So let's say we want to have directly after the for loop, we want to have a break. We set here the stop command. So our program looks then like this. And now let's start it. So, and now the program stopped because of the stop. If you want to make it more comfortable, you also could have an additional print accompanying the stop. And now the program has stopped here, and you can, for example, have a look at the variables with a print x. You see, okay, it's the first loop. You can have a look at the variable a and at the variable b. And once you're done, again, you may not change anything on the code because then everything is gone. You just can continue with a cont. And now the program looped a full line until it again came over this stop command. So if you now, for example, have a look at the x variable, you will see you are now in the second loop. And so you can step by step go through your program and have this possibility to debug. Yeah. And now the error occurs. So after an error occurs, it's also no longer possible to continue because you had this error. The next very important thing I want to show you, let's go back to the program, remove the stop command, and is a command that is very powerful. It is tron. So what happens if you type in tron? Let's have a look. Okay, in reality, not such sophisticated things are happening, but still, you have now a full trace mode. So if we now start the program, whenever a line is executed, this is printed. So let's have a look on run. And then you see it started with executing line 5, line 10, line 20, line 50, and so on. And then you see here the loop. It's always going then from here 60, 65, 70, 60, 65, 70, 60, 65, 70, and then somewhere at 60 it ended. And this helps you to if you don't lose track where the program stopped or where the program path is running into a wrong branch or things like that. There is also the the trace off, where you switch this off. Keep in mind that it's also possible to have this as a part of the code. So if you have a very big code that you want to debug and you already know the rough location where the error is located, you can enter there in the code a trace on and later a trace off, and then you only have the output of the relevant part so that you do not get lost in traces. The last thing I want to show is there I need a little bit more complicated program. Let's have a look. Now I have loaded this little bit more complex program. So just have a look at the very first lines. And what you see here is now the command that I want to show you is the command trap. And trap sets a command, a program line, here it's this 350, to which the program jumps, or the computer jumps, whenever an error occurs. And this helps you for two major things. One thing, I don't want to go into details here, is that you can have a more sophisticated error handling because the program continues regular after that. So you remember there is this variable where you can check for the error number. So you can check for that variable and then in your program react on the error message. And the second thing, because today we are talking about debugging, it's also very important if you are into debugging of graphics. Yeah. You see here in line 21 and line 25 I switch on the graphics, and if now the computer goes into an error, I can do nothing of the things I've showed before because we are still in the graphic modes and we are completely lost. And therefore it's important that if an error occurs, we switch back to the regular mode. So what I will do is two things. First, I will enter here a syntax error into this line that we have an error. So I just enter here an addition. I just change here the command. So this is now an unknown command, so it's a syntax error. And then before we start it, we will have a look at the command line where it is running to in case of an error. So, and you see here I close the screen, and in the next line I restore the palette, and then I think in the next I end the program, but this is no longer then important because because the important thing is after those two commands I'm already back in text mode, and this is what we will now test. And you see, oh, okay, now here comes first the printing of the text, so I will set this in fast forward. So here the error came, and as you see here, 350. After the error came, the computer jumped to 350 and 350 and 360. Those lines switched back to the text mode, which enabled us to see the trace. So this is all I wanted to show about debugging on the Commodore 65. I wish you much success with debugging all your code and success in finding all the bugs and removing them. Don't forget to post a link to your Commodore 65 program, to a video of your Commodore 65 program under my video. As promised in the trailer, you will be rewarded with, under guarantee, up to 1 thumb up. And then see you in the next lesson. Bye.